Welcome to Burbachulous. I'm Lisa, and we're going to talk about the product of the month from Stampin' Up. When you order $75 worth of products, they will have a product of the month for $5, and then you can add that to your cart and get that product for $5. It's a great deal, and there have been some really wonderful products of the month, well, every month. This month is Begonia Belle, and it is a layering flower set with some sweet sentiments. I find those to be a little bit tricky. I have a little trouble getting them lined up as a rule, but we'll talk about something you can do to try to make that work a little better for you. And I do just want to make a note that my voice may not match these pictures completely because for some reason when I recorded it, the sound didn't record it, and I'm coming back and recording it. So here are the sentiments. We have best wishes and you are my sunshine, some little decorative dots. Those are fun. I think there'll be a lot of ways to use this card. So today we're making this card, which is a monochromatic card. So we're just going to use one color, basic gray. And I am going to move that sentiment down. This was my test card to make the space a little more even when we make this card today. I haven't put anything on the inside, but you could put flowers or something or leaves down in the corner. I probably will for the card that we're going to make today. So I do think, like I said, that this is tricky, but it isn't too tricky, and we'll dive in and see what we can do with this card. So we're going to start with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. We're going to cut it down to a typical A2 card size. So we'll cut it at the 5.5 mark. And then I will score it at 4.25. And if you're like me, it is tempting to use the cutting part instead of the scoring part. So pay attention to that part. And then we're just going to score that and have it ready to be our card base. There we go. So the next piece that we're going to use is going to be we have a base piece and we have a decorative piece that we're going to use. And so, but we'll start with our decorative piece. So this is one called Lux something. I went a little blank on it, but you can see that it has a debossed image that is sort of sparkly and shiny. And we're going to ink that and then buff that off, and the shiny part will show. And so we're going to cut a piece. I always struggle getting it the right direction. I don't know about you, but we're going to cut a piece to 5.25 by 4. And this is our main background. And then we will, like I said, we will ink this page to make it as part of our background, have a little color pop for this monochromatic flower that we're making. Now the centerpiece is going to be a little bit smaller, and it's a basic white cardstock, and we're going to do it by 4.75 by 3.5. So then we'll switch to 3.5. I keep those little strips because they work well for sentiments, and try to use as much as I can of my papers. So now we have our pieces together. We have the card base, we have the top piece, and our background piece. And we're going to start making our card. Now I'm going to ink this with Poppy Parade. I think it's just a fun color. And I'm going to use just a brush. You don't have to worry about the center for this card because it's going to be covered anyway. And so just ink enough to get the edges so that you like them. And we're going to work our way around the edges. I'm not the best inker. I wouldn't mind being better at it, but I get by. And sometimes it comes out very nice. I don't know. Some people love inking and others don't. Now, if you do not, then do not feel the need to do this part. What I would recommend doing is using a colored decorative piece of paper, designer series paper, in a color that you like. The pinks and reds would work nicely with this card. And then you can use it instead of doing the inking. Personally, I like this ink effect for this. And then, like I said, I'm going to buff it to be able to bring out the shininess again. And the ink that's on the white part will just stay put. I will finish up on my edges, and you can take a look at this and see what you think for what you like. I think it's not bad here. I probably will come back and get a little bit more. See, so you take a look, see what you think. Is it fine? Do you want to add a little bit more? I would like a little bit more on the top part of this card. Not much. And now it's ready to go. So see, I don't have anything in the center, and I'm going to buff out to get that shine back. So as I take a cloth, I just have a piece of flannel, and I'm going to rub it over the top. And then you'll see that the color stays in place, but the shininess pops out a little bit more. You could also use clear embossing ink and emboss with flowers or leaves or something like that, and then get the same effect. You would boss on with the clear, ink it, and then buff it off. And there we go. Now, the next part is to remember to wipe my board. I don't know about you, but I'm always getting ink all over myself and all over everything. So here we go. We'll get my ink off. It's just a glass board, so it's easy to clean. Make it a little bit dry. And here's my stamp set. I have a large flower and a small flower and 2 leaves. And what we're going to do is ink it and then ink it off in order to get that monochromatic look. So what you're doing is making a softer gray by inking it off. I'm using Basic Gray by Stampin' Up. And now I'm going to ink this on the corners of each side. Ink it up. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna ink it off on my paper. So now most of the ink is over there. And then there's just a light bit left. Find where I'd like it to be, and I'm going to ink off of the edges so that it runs off the edges a little bit. Now you'll see that this is actually very faint. I wouldn't mind it being a little darker, but for the way this card works, it's going to be fine. And remember, when you're making a card, that no one is saying how you should have done it, right? They're just happy with how you did do it. And unless you tell them that you made a mistake and it wasn't what you wanted, or you changed something, they're just not going to know. And they're still going to be very happy. Okay, now we're going to take the second flower. And this time we will not ink it off. We'll put that aside. So to use this stamp set, I find that the center is what's helpful to line up. The little bud right there, the heart of the flower. And we're going to line up the 2 pieces. And that really worked pretty well. And you can watch the edges as well. And there's my head, I'm sorry. There you go. And see, now you have the light and the dark on it. And then we'll do the same for the other side. And then I think sometimes I find that it's helpful to turn the ink pad upside down to get it. So I'm just going to line it up again, looking for the little centerpiece of the flower. If it's not exact, it's okay. Flowers have lots of different patterns to their leaves. And there we go. So it is a little darker than the top one, and that's okay. So you have some options. You can leave it, and that's perfectly fine. You could ink it again if you're a confident block inker. This is where a repositioning tool is very helpful because you could ink it repeatedly to get the look that you wanted. Another option is to grab a paintbrush and a little bit of water, and we're just going to use the ink itself. And because they're water soluble inks, I'm just going to make a little smudge of the ink here. Get myself situated. Again, it's the basic gray, and that's all we're using. So we want to get it, just a little bit wet. We're going to come in. If you twirl the brush, it makes your points a little pointier. And just add in a little texture. You don't have to do this. Like I said, you could have left it, and that is fine. You can add it in. You can restamp it. Like I said, there are some options. It's crafter's choice on that. So it's okay. I think that's fine. Now, I'll clean up my mess because I am always getting ink on things. The leaves are what we're going to do next, and it's just a little, I'm sorry, let me go ahead and do this sentiment. So we want to keep in mind that we want space for the ribbon, right? To have room for everything on it. See that I put the last one a little too high, and we're just going to lower that a little bit. And so I'm going to use a little ribbon to kind of show me where I think I want it to be so that I can leave a space. I want the whole card to have that general look that is pleasing to the eye, where things don't feel like they're in weird positions. And again, with the basic gray, just keeping our same color. So we're just using the one stamp set. If it's a new stamp, sometimes an eraser helps. I keep less, so the ink sticks better. Yeah, it grabs onto it. I'm going to double check and make sure that ink looks good. Sentiments can be a little tricky. I like to give a sample stamp to see that I know that the stamp is going to do what I want it to do. And then we'll come in and check that ink. Just place it on. And there we have it. Close up my ink because I would most likely put my elbow or hands in it for sure. The ribbon, we want to leave just enough. It doesn't have to wrap all the way around the back, just enough that I can secure it on the other sides, other side of the card. Now you can use these glue dots, you can use glue, a tape run, or whatever you like. I like these from the Paper Pumpkin kits. A lot of people don't like them, but I really like them, and I sort of hope that they don't decide to like them, because sometimes people give me theirs because they don't like them. But really, I find using this little pokey tool is what makes all the difference. I can just slide it off and place it down, and I find that they holds really well. And just pull the paper backing off. And there we go. And then I will just line that up over my little dots. And then we'll do the same on the back to make it stick. Now, I find this is really sufficient. Now, if you have a trickier ribbon or a slick ribbon, you might need something a little stronger. And the bigger mini glue dots work really, really well. I do find the difference is they sometimes have a little height, and these are perfectly flat. And there we go. Okay, I have some smudges on here already, and you have some choices. You can not worry about it. We can flick some stuff, water and color onto it, which is probably what I'm going to do in this case. Um, I could put embellishments over it to hide it, but it depends on the location of those embellishments. Okay, I'm find that this ribbon is really too big to make a good ribbon for this card, so I'm just going to do a single loop and find the shape that size I think works best. And I'm going to go back to those basic little flat dots. I know I've said it, I'll say it again. I really love the dots. So there, you just slide under it. Now this is just for my little cross piece, and it works really well. It will hold. Now I'll find the size that I want, smush it onto my dot. Ta-da! Now we'll do the same thing for the back side to make it stick to the ribbon itself. Now I will just use one sometimes. Every once in a while you might find you need another one, and then you put it under there, under the back side of that ribbon. Okay, so we now need to think about those leaves. And honestly, I should have done them the other way around before putting the ribbon on it, but I got ahead of myself. So that's fine. It will still work. But we will have to do a little bit of masking to make this work. And we'll just use a piece of paper. And again, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the flowers, is that we're going to use for the bigger piece, we're going to ink it off. And then that will give us our lighter color. And the thing is to let go of perfection here. It doesn't have to be perfect. So yeah, I've got to put this piece of paper there. It gives the impression that the leaf is underneath of my flower this way. And see it, there's a hole. And that's fine because I'm going to come back over it with another leaf. And again, I have some options of ways to fix it or not fix it. Now this time I'm not going to ink off. I'm just going to use the darker ink, and we're going to remember to mask it again. I will press down really firmly in the center so that I can make sure that I can cover up that space that was left from the last stamp. See, that's a lot better. There's a spot there, and we can fix that. We can ink it again. We can come in with a marker. See, like, I'll try to ink it again a little. It's just okay that way. In my opinion, and you have to be really good at lining it up. And so I left a little bit of shadow, which is fine for this card and the effect that it's making. But what I think I'll do is go back to my paintbrush, and we're going to use the ink again. And so I'll just make another smudge. That really works the best. And then I can sort of dapple in the look that I want to fill in that space, just like I did on the leaf, on the flower, I mean. And see, that takes care of that little space perfectly fine. Now we'll just repeat on the lower flower. I'll remember we're going to stamp off the ink for the first layer, and remember to mask again. And stamp it off. There are lots of ways you could mask. I just chose this paper, but that's probably a little less precise. But again, it'll be fine. So again, we have that space. I'm not going to worry about it because I'm coming back in with the second stamp that has the darker color to it because I didn't ink off the ink for this. And then we'll mask it again and go ahead and fill in that space. Okay, this time it went over a little bit, and that's fine. I'm just going to use the water again. This is water-soluble ink, and I'm going to soften that some and help blend it in so it doesn't look like the leaf went over that pattern a little. And I can come in and, again, it works best if you smear it a little bit on your glass board. You can come in and just make that flower look a little darker, so I'm hiding the leaf where it came over. And then there we go. So a watercolor trick is that to get a soft line, you're going to rinse your brush in the water and then just run the brush around the edge with no ink on it. And there you go. So that was an easy fix. Okay, now we need to talk about some smudges. They can't really see them as much in the video, but in person, it has lots of smudges where I must have had ink on my finger. I cover it with an embellishment, but I don't think I can get the placement right to cover all the smudges. So I'll go ahead and cover the ones that I can. I like odd numbers. That is definitely crafter's choice. So I'd rather have 3 or 5 on a card. I can cover one smudge up here, but I won't be able to cover all of them. See, there's still a smudge beside that little one. And then, there we go. All right, now we still have these smudges. So what are we going to do? Like I said, it's not as easy to see in the video. I could erase them. I could use a sandpaper eraser. I don't think that those do really great, especially with a dark color like this. It just depends. So instead, we're going to make it look like we meant to do it. And you need a little extra water to do this. Smudge your ink onto the glass or palette, and then we're just going to flick it on there to give a more artistic look, a splatter artistic look. So now, who knows that there's smudges there? Only you, right? If you're making it, you have to do this. The person you're giving it to does not know that you meant to do that. I'm going to make a few heavier ones just for effect. There we go. So see, that has just a little bit of flair. And honestly, I think I really like it better than the one without. Adds a little dimension and dynamic to it. And now we can put our card together. So for putting your background onto your card, that is crafter's choice. You can use glue, a tape runner, you can use tear and tape, you can use dots, whatever you want to make that stick. I like a tape runner, but mine broke this morning and I haven't gotten around to it. So glue, tear and tape. You can use, like I said, a tape runner. I'm going to use the tear and tape because that's what I have handy. I could use the glue. Sometimes glue, it depends on how thick your base is, glue will show through on the other side. And then I'm not making this precise, just enough to make it stick. Let's stick one in the middle. Now I like to run over it a little bit to help it adhere. Sorry, I'm looking for my bone folder. There we go. That just makes it easier to pull that backing off and help it stick. Okay, and we can see I had ink on my fingers because of my dirty tape. That's okay because no one's going to be looking at that. I find that that is my most difficult thing is I almost always have ink on my fingers. So we're just going to line that up. And remember that center part that is white is not going to show because we're going to put our flowers on top of it. And I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals for this to give it a little bit of height and pop it up. Some ways that you could do it is that you could have several pieces of cardstock the same size and layer it to give it height as well if you don't like using the foam tapes. We're almost done with this card. It's really a nice, simple card to do. The hardest part is maybe getting the alignment for your flowers, or maybe masking the leaves. But even that isn't hard. That we're going to be done with this card in under 30 minutes. And that's because we're kind of walking through it together. You could easily do this card in less than 30 minutes. And that is the card. Now you can leave it just like this. I am going to adjust those ribbons. I maybe need to sharpen my scissors. Okay. And you can do that however you want. If you have a ribbon that isn't so bulky that you chose to use, you might want to make a bow, but I kind of like this look. And there we go. Your finished card. Like I said, I kind of like it with the dots a little, with the splash a little better. So maybe I'm glad I could come back in and put more ink like I did on the bottom one on here, or I could just leave it. It's really fine. Also for the inside, you can leave it blank. I like to put a little something inside just to gussy it up a little bit. There are these cute leaves and buds in the set. And I think we'll just have a leaf blowing in the wind as our decoration. And this, again, the same color. We're just keeping this card simple with one color. And the placement's up to you. You can put it in a straight line across the bottom, have it blowing off the edge. You can put something at the top. It's just nice to have a little visual something when you open the card. Okay, so that is our card. It was easy. I'm going to stamp it with my stamp. And if you have one, I encourage you to remember this step so people know that you made this card for them. Ours is a Burbachulous card made with love and overthinking. And here's your card. So it's simple, easy card. I think you could do this really very quickly. I really suppose a little crooked. I'm going to go in here and just add one more little dot to make it a little more stable. And that's just on the, what would you call it? The legs. I don't know what we call that. The bottom pieces of the ribbon. There. Again, with my beloved flat dots. I really, really love these dots. And so there's your card. Thank you for everything you do. It's a simple and easy card that I think you can, you could batch this and make a bunch of them and have them on hand because it's simple and easy.